The family dining room was filled with the soft clinking of cutlery and the hesitant laughter that often accompanied our gatherings. The warm glow of the overhead lights cast a cozy ambience, yet the air was thick with an unspoken tension. I could feel it wrapping around us like a tight band, squeezing tighter with every passing moment. My daughter Lisa casually remarked, "Maybe you should just disappear, Mom," her voice light, unaware of the weight her words carried. I sat frozen, my fork poised midair, the food on my plate forgotten. As the laughter faded, a heavy silence settled over the table. I glanced at Mark, my partner, who looked as stunned as I felt. His eyes flickered with concern, and I could sense him weighing the consequences of what had just been said. I wanted to respond, to break the thickening atmosphere, but the words lodged in my throat, heavy and unyielding. What did it say about our family that such a thought could be uttered so flippantly? I had always strived to create a harmonious environment, yet here we were, teetering on the edge of a cliff. The memories of past dinners flooded my mind, hushed tones, forced smiles, the way Lisa would roll her eyes at my attempts to keep the peace. I wondered if this was the moment I had to confront her. My heart raced at the thought, a mix of fear and uncertainty swirling within me. I could almost hear my mother's voice echoing in my head, advising me to keep the peace at all costs. But was silence truly the answer? As I looked around the table, I saw the faces of my family, each one a reflection of my choices, my failures. The tension was palpable, a living entity that thrummed under the surface. I wanted to enjoy this dinner, to savor the fleeting moments of togetherness, yet the reality was a stark contrast to my desires. I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down, urging me to decide. Should I let it go, or was it time to confront the hurtful truth? After dinner, the living room felt oddly quiet, a stark contrast to the earlier chaos of laughter and celebration. The flickering candlelight cast shadows that danced across the walls, highlighting the tension that lingered in the air. I could smell the faint remnants of the meal, garlic and rosemary, mixing with the unshakable scent of anxiety that clung to me like a second skin. My fingers fidgeted with the hem of my sweater, a physical manifestation of the turmoil bubbling just beneath the surface. Mark sat beside me on the couch, his brow furrowed in concern. I caught his eye and he offered a reassuring squeeze of my hand. "You okay?" he asked softly, his voice low, as if afraid to disturb the fragile silence we were encased in. I wanted to nod, to assure him everything was fine, but the weight of my daughter's words still echoed in my mind, a haunting reminder of the reality I was avoiding. I swallowed hard, the lump in my throat making it difficult to speak. I couldn't shake off the image of my daughter, her face lit with a carefree smile as she made that cutting remark. "Maybe you should just disappear," she had said, her tone light, unaware of the daggers she was throwing. The laughter had faded, replaced by an uncomfortable stillness that wrapped around us like a heavy blanket. I felt the heat rise in my cheeks, a mix of anger and deep sadness. How could she say something like that? Mark leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "Anna, you need to talk to her. This isn't just going to fix itself." His words hung in the air, an invitation to confront the elephant in the room, but the thought made my stomach churn. What if I made things worse? What if she resented me for bringing it up? I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. "I know, but it's complicated," I replied, my voice trembling slightly. Complicated felt like an understatement. I could feel the tears prickling at the corners of my eyes, a mix of frustration and helplessness. I thought about my mother, Clara, and the way she had often swept issues under the rug, a pattern I had unconsciously adopted. I didn't want to repeat that cycle, but the fear of confrontation loomed large. Mark's expression softened as he watched me wrestle with my thoughts. "You can't ignore this, Anna. It'll only fester. You deserve to be heard, and so does she." His words were a lifeline, yet they also felt like a daunting challenge. I nodded slowly, the resolve building within me, but it was accompanied by a sense of dread. How do you begin to untangle years of unspoken words? The thought alone made my heart race, but I knew I had to try. The silence between us felt heavier, charged with the promise of confrontation that would inevitably come. It was time to face the truth, even if it scared me to my core. The kitchen was a whirlwind of activity, the clattering of pots and pans creating a chaotic symphony that mirrored my inner turmoil. The smell of roasted vegetables mingled with the sharp scent of lemon, but I barely registered it. My hands trembled slightly as I chopped the carrots, each slice a futile attempt to channel my frustration. The vibrant orange pieces seemed to mock me, a stark contrast to the dark cloud of disappointment that loomed overhead. As I stood there, I replayed the moment from dinner over and over in my mind. "I just wish you would disappear." My daughter's words echoed in my ears, cruel and cutting. I felt a surge of anger rise within me, mixed with a deep sense of betrayal. How could she say something like that? The innocent laughter that had filled the room moments before now felt like a distant memory, replaced by the weight of unspoken truths. My heart raced as I wrestled with my emotions, the pressure building like a pressure cooker ready to explode. Mark entered the kitchen, his brow furrowed with concern. "Anna, are you okay?" His voice was soft, but it felt like a lifeline thrown into my sea of confusion. I looked up, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. "Just busy, I guess." He stepped closer, placing a hand on my shoulder, grounding me in that moment. "You don't have to pretend with me. I saw how hurt you were at dinner. You need to talk about it." I inhaled deeply, the air thick with the scent of dinner, and exhaled slowly, feeling the knot in my chest tighten. "I just don't know how to approach her, Mark. What if it makes things worse?" My voice trembled slightly, betraying my uncertainty. The thought of confrontation sent chills down my spine, yet the idea of letting it fester felt equally unbearable. Mark's grip tightened reassuringly. "You can't let this go, Anna. It's important. It's not just about you, it's about your relationship with her. You need to address it or it will only get worse." I nodded, but the fear of what that confrontation could bring loomed large in my mind. I thought about all the times I had avoided conflict, burying my feelings under layers of silence. The thought of my daughter's disappointment, her anger, and the possibility of further straining our relationship felt like a weight pressing down on me. In that moment, I remembered my own childhood, the way my mother had avoided conflicts, choosing silence over resolution. Was I repeating that cycle? I could still hear her voice in my head, telling me to keep the peace at all costs, even if it meant sacrificing my own feelings. But I couldn't let that happen with my daughter. I wanted to break free from that cycle, to show her that it was okay to voice your feelings, even if it was uncomfortable. As I chopped the last of the vegetables, my determination solidified. I would confront her, but how? I envisioned the dinner table again, the tension that had hung in the air like an uninvited guest. I needed to approach it delicately, to express how her words had affected me without escalating the situation further. But would she even listen? I felt a shiver of doubt creep in, a nagging thought that maybe I was setting myself up for failure. Mark's voice broke through my thoughts again. "Whatever you decide, I'm here for you, just be honest. That's all you can do." His encouragement sparked a flicker of hope within me, but it was quickly overshadowed by the fear of the unknown. What if she rejected my feelings? What if I lost her trust? I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. In that moment, as I stared at the vibrant vegetables before me, I realized that I had to take that leap. I would address the hurt, I would speak up, and I would not let fear dictate my actions any longer. The silence that had once felt safe was now a prison, and I was ready to break free, even if it meant facing the discomfort head-on. As I finished preparing dinner, the aroma of food filled the air, a reminder that life went on, even amidst the chaos. I resolved to speak with her, to confront the issue directly, no matter the outcome. I needed to reclaim my voice for both myself and for her. The kitchen may have been chaotic, but in that moment I found clarity. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to face the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The next family gathering would be different. I would not shy away any longer. I would stand firm in my resolve, ready to fight for my relationship with my daughter, even if it meant confronting the injustices that had lingered in the shadows for far too long. Looking out the window, the world outside felt distant, a canvas painted with vibrant colors that clashed against the grayness in my heart. The autumn leaves danced in the wind, their crisp edges flickering like memories that taunted me with their fleeting beauty. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass, hoping the chill would numb the turmoil brewing within. The silence of my room was oppressive, echoing the chaos of emotions that surged through me. How had everything spiraled to this point? I could still hear Jess's voice in my mind, her blunt honesty cutting through my despair. "You can't just let it go, Anna. You deserve to be heard, to stand up for yourself." But the thought of confrontation made me feel small, like a child attempting to face a storm. I wrapped my arms around myself, feeling the weight of my insecurities pressing down on me. What if I opened up old wounds? What if my daughter turned her back on me, just as Clara had done so many times before? In that moment of reflection, I felt a spark of clarity. The anger I had suppressed was not just about my daughter's hurtful remark. It was a culmination of years of unmet expectations and unspoken grievances. My relationship with Clara had taught me that silence could be a poison, festering beneath a facade of normalcy. I had to confront this, my own feelings, my past, and the pain that bound us together and yet kept us apart. As I paced the room, my fingers grazed the clutter of papers and books scattered across my desk, remnants of a life I was trying to piece together. A framed photo caught my eye, my daughter's radiant smile frozen in time, a stark contrast to the chasm growing between us. I felt a pang of guilt mixed with longing. I wanted to reach her, to protect her from the pain that had marked our family. But could I do that without exposing my own vulnerabilities? The thought of my daughter's words echoed in my mind, sharp and unforgiving. "Just disappear." It was a phrase that lingered like a ghost, haunting every moment of my day. I felt the urge to write it down, to confront it on paper, to make sense of the chaos. With a deep breath, I grabbed a pen and began to pour my heart into a letter. I wanted to explain everything, the hurt, the silence, the love I still had for her, even amidst the turmoil. But as the ink flowed, despair washed over me once more. What if my words fell flat? What if they only deepened the divide? I paused, staring at the page filled with my scrawled thoughts, a mix of hope and fear. The weight of my emotions felt almost tangible, like a heavy cloak wrapped around my shoulders. I was at a crossroads, and every choice loomed before me like a shadow, threatening to engulf me. Just then my phone buzzed, breaking the silence. It was a message from Jess asking how I was holding up. A small flicker of warmth ignited in my chest. I typed back, sharing my struggle, the chaos that had consumed my thoughts. Her reply was immediate, filled with encouragement. "You've got this, Anna. No matter what happens, you're stronger than you think." With renewed determination, I wiped away the tears that had threatened to spill and took a deep breath. I needed to embrace the uncertainty and face my fears. I wasn't just a passive observer in my life, I was the author of my own narrative. It was time to take control and confront the hurt that had lingered too long in the shadows. The emotional breakdown I had been avoiding would not define me, it would be the catalyst for change. The early morning light filtered through the kitchen window, casting a warm glow over the scattered papers and half-filled notepads that littered the table. I could smell the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingling with the faint scent of cinnamon from last night's dessert, creating a comforting yet chaotic backdrop for the task at hand. My fingers trembled slightly as I tapped the pen against the table, each click echoing my mounting anxiety. I had to find a way to bridge the chasm that had formed in my family, a task that felt more daunting than ever. Jess sat across from me, her brow furrowed in concentration as she jotted down ideas. "We need to approach this delicately, Anna. It's not just about confronting, it's about healing," she said, her voice steady yet urgent. I nodded, biting my lip as I contemplated her words. The weight of our fractured relationships pressed heavily on my chest, making it hard to breathe. Every moment spent in this planning session felt like a step towards either redemption or disaster. "What if we write down everything we need to address? Just get it all out in the open?" I suggested, my voice trembling slightly. Jess paused, considering my idea, her eyes narrowing thoughtfully. "That could work, but remember, Anna, it's not just about the issues. It's how we frame them. We need to express our feelings without sounding accusatory," she replied, a hint of encouragement in her tone. I felt a flicker of determination ignite within me. Perhaps this was the breakthrough I needed. As we scribbled notes, I couldn't shake the memories of our last family gathering. The tension had been palpable, like an electric current humming just beneath the surface, waiting to burst forth. I recalled Clara's hurt expression, the way she had looked at me as if I were a stranger. I shivered at the thought, a chill running down my spine. The enormity of my task loomed ahead, and I wondered if I could truly mend what had been broken. "Let's take a moment to outline our feelings first before diving into the issues," Jess suggested, breaking my reverie. I took a deep breath, letting the air fill my lungs as I prepared to articulate my thoughts. As I began to write, I poured out my heart onto the page, each word a cathartic release. I wanted Clara to know how deeply I regretted my actions, the pain they had caused. "This is about more than just the past, Anna. It's about moving forward together," Jess reminded me, her voice a grounding force amidst my swirling thoughts. I glanced up at her, grateful for her unwavering support. My resolve solidified. I would not let fear dictate the future of my family any longer. The tension in the air transformed into a palpable energy of hope, igniting a spark within me that I hadn't felt in weeks. As we continued to brainstorm, I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. I realized that while the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, it was a path I had to take. This planning session wasn't just about words. It was about rebuilding trust, rekindling love, and ultimately restoring the peace that had eluded us for far too long. I looked at Jess, determination in my eyes. "Let's do this. I won't let my doubts hold me back any longer." The meeting would not only be a confrontation, it would be a chance for healing, a pivotal moment where we could redefine our family dynamics. I knew the stakes were high, but for the first time in a long time, I felt ready to face whatever came next. With Jess by my side, I was prepared to take that leap of faith into the unknown, hoping against hope that it would lead us back to one another. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken words and tension as I gathered my courage, preparing for the storm that was about to erupt. The family room felt suffocating, the walls closing in on me, darkened by the weight of anticipation. Sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating the dust motes swirling in the air, but it did little to brighten the mood. I could hear the ticking of the clock on the wall, each tick a reminder that time was running out for me to address the elephant in the room. As I stood there, my heart pounded in my chest, a steady drumbeat of fear and determination. I glanced at Lisa, my mother, seated across from me. Her expression was a mixture of disbelief and anger, her brow furrowed as she processed my words from our last encounter. I felt the heat rising in my cheeks, the realization that I had pushed her too far, and I prepared myself for her reaction. "You can't just say those things and expect everything to go back to normal, Anna," she shouted, her voice sharp, slicing through the uneasy air. I took a deep breath, my palms clammy against my sides. Mom, I need you to listen to me. I didn't mean what I said about disappearing. My voice wavered, but I pressed on, the words tumbling out in a rush. I felt suffocated and I wanted to break free, but I never wanted to hurt you. I love you and I want us to fix this. Lisa's eyes widened in shock, and for a moment I saw a flicker of vulnerability flash across her face. The tension in the room thickened as silence enveloped us, each of us grappling with the weight of my confession. I could feel the tears pricking at the corners of my eyes, but I fought them back, unwilling to give in to despair. I had to stand my ground. You think this is just about you, don't you? Lisa's voice trembled, a mixture of anger and hurt. Do you have any idea how your words affect me? I could see the betrayal etched on her face, and it struck me like a physical blow. I had never intended to push her away, but now the realization hit me. My silence had been a catalyst for this moment. I see that now, Mom. I've been so wrapped up in my own feelings that I didn't consider how they would hurt you. I can't change the past, but I want to change how we move forward. Please, let's talk this through. My voice was barely a whisper, filled with desperation. The room felt electric, charged with emotions swirling between us, waiting for resolution. Lisa's expression softened just a fraction, and I could see her wavering. Perhaps the walls between us were not as impenetrable as I had feared. The moment hung in the air, heavy with possibility, and I held my breath, praying for a breakthrough. This confrontation was my final trigger, a catalyst for change, and as my heart raced, I understood that this was the moment where everything could shift, if only we could find a way to bridge the gap between us. I sat in my dimly lit living room, the shadows flickering against the walls as the sun dipped below the horizon. The scent of burnt coffee lingered in the air, a reminder of my restless night spent wrestling with my thoughts. Jess was perched on the edge of the couch, her eyes sharp with determination, mirroring my own resolve. I could feel the weight of the secrets we were about to unpack, a palpable tension that clung to us like the darkness enveloping the room. So what's the plan? Jess asked, her voice low, almost conspiratorial as she leaned forward, her hands clasped together. I took a deep breath, the anxiety coiling in my stomach as I prepared to outline my thoughts. We need to confront Clara, but it has to be strategic. I can't just throw my feelings at her and hope for the best. There's too much at stake, I replied, my voice steadying as I spoke. With each word, I felt a surge of determination. Memories of Clara's dismissive remarks and the hurtful comments replayed in my mind, fueling my anger. I had spent so long trying to keep the peace, but now it felt like a burden I could no longer bear. Jess nodded, her brow furrowing in thought. What if you write her a letter, pour your feelings onto the page, then read it to her? It could help you express yourself without losing control in the moment, she suggested, her eyes bright with the flicker of inspiration. I considered her idea, my fingers tapping nervously against the arm of the couch. A letter seemed like a safe way to articulate my feelings, but it also felt like a compromise. Would it really convey the depth of my anger and hurt? I needed to strike a balance between honesty and the risk of further alienating Clara. What if I combined the letter with a confrontation? I could read it to her, but then follow up with how I truly feel. It's time to stop hiding behind polite words. I want her to understand the impact of her actions on me, I said, my voice growing more passionate as I spoke. I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins, igniting a fire within me that had long been dormant. Jess leaned back, contemplating my words. That sounds intense, but you're right. It's about time you took a stand. Just be prepared for her reaction. It might not be what you hope for, she cautioned, her expression softening with concern. I nodded, fully aware of the potential fallout, but I was ready to risk it. This was about reclaiming my voice, and I wouldn't let fear dictate my actions any longer. The room fell silent for a moment, the gravity of our conversation hanging in the air. I felt a strange mix of fear and exhilaration. I was stepping into uncharted territory, but I couldn't turn back now. The confrontation was inevitable. I would face Clara and make her confront the truth, no matter the cost. As Jess and I continued to brainstorm, I felt a sense of resolve wash over me. This was my moment to reclaim my power, to show Clara that I wouldn't be silenced anymore. I could see a path forward, even if it was fraught with uncertainty. I was ready to face whatever came next. The time for change was now. The dining room was unusually silent, the air thick with an unspoken tension that felt almost palpable. The flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows across our faces, highlighting the anxiety etched into every expression. I could smell the lingering aroma of the roast from dinner, now cold and unappetizing, mirroring the chill that had settled within me. My heart raced as I prepared to address the elephant that had loomed over our family for far too long. As I stood, my hands trembled at my sides, the weight of my resolve pressing down on me. I cleared my throat, the sound echoing in the stillness, and all eyes turned to me. Clara's gaze pierced through me, a mixture of expectation and dread swirling in her expression. I need to say something, and I need you all to listen, I began, my voice quaking with the enormity of what I was about to unleash. The room held its breath, the silence stretching out like a taut string ready to snap. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, and I fought against the urge to retreat back into the safety of silence. What happened at dinner last week? It was hurtful, and not just for me, but for all of us. We can't keep pretending that everything is fine when it's not. My silence was never consent to the way things are. Clara flinched at my words, her expression shifting as she processed the weight of my accusation. The corners of her mouth tightened, and I could see her fighting against the defensive instincts that had built up over years of our strained relationship. My pulse quickened, and I pressed on, determined to break through the wall that had kept us apart. You've always tried to protect me, but in doing so you've pushed me away. I feel like I'm living in a shadow of your expectations. I can't disappear into the background anymore. As I spoke, I could see Mark shift uncomfortably in his seat, his eyes darting between Clara and me, silently pleading for a peaceful resolution. Jess sat beside him, her expression one of quiet support, as if she were willing me to continue. I took a deep breath, the air thick with the scent of burnt sugar from dessert, grounding myself in the moment. We need to talk about our feelings. We can't keep burying them. I want to heal, but first I need us to be honest with each other. Clara's lips parted slightly, and for a brief moment I thought she might respond. But the tension in the room was suffocating, and I could see the struggle in her eyes, the battle between her instincts to protect and the need to confront the truth. I don't know how to do that, Zoe, she finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper, yet it felt like a crack in the dam that had held back her feelings for so long. Neither do I, but we have to start somewhere. I can't keep living like this, and I don't want to keep hurting you. I love you, Mom, and I want to find a way back to each other, but it starts with honesty. Can we do that? My voice broke slightly as I finished, the weight of my vulnerability hanging in the air. I felt the tears prickling at the corners of my eyes, but I blinked them away, unwilling to show weakness. The silence that followed was deafening, but amidst the uncertainty, I could see a flicker of something in Clara's gaze, a glimmer of hope, perhaps, or the realization that this moment could be a turning point for us. I clasped my hands together, my heart pounding as I waited for her response, knowing that whatever came next could either mend our rift or drive us further apart. The atmosphere in the dining room felt both heavy and strangely lighter at the same time, a juxtaposition that mirrored the tumult of emotions swirling within me. As I surveyed the remnants of our family dinner, the plates half empty, the wine glasses still half full, I could sense the weight of unspoken words lingering in the air. The aroma of roasted chicken now mingled with the bittersweet scent of unresolved feelings, a reminder of the fragile threads that held us together. I glanced at Clara, her expression a mix of relief and lingering sadness. We had faced our truths, yet I knew the road ahead would still be rocky. I'm glad we talked, Mom, I said softly, my voice breaking the silence that had settled like a thick fog. She nodded slowly, her gaze fixed on her untouched plate, as if the food held the answers we both sought. It's just going to take time, Anna. I hope we can find a way to understand each other better, she replied, her tone filled with a hint of vulnerability that tugged at my heart. I could see the flicker of hope in her eyes, and I felt a sense of shared determination. We were both willing to try to mend what had been frayed. As the evening wore on, I felt a sense of cautious optimism wash over me. The laughter that had once felt forced began to resonate more genuinely, the tension easing with each shared story and heartfelt exchange. It was as if we were slowly peeling away the layers of hurt that had built up over the years, exposing the raw, unguarded emotions underneath. Yet, even amidst the laughter, I was acutely aware of the remnants of our conflict. I could feel the weight of our past hovering like a shadow, a reminder that healing would not be instantaneous. I took a deep breath, grounding myself in the moment, knowing that this was the beginning of a new chapter. In the quiet moments between conversations, I reflected on how far we had come that evening. I had faced my fears, confronted Clara, and in return, we had taken the first steps toward rebuilding our relationship. The journey ahead was still uncertain, but I felt a renewed sense of hope blossoming within me. Perhaps with time and patience, we could transform our pain into understanding and love. As the dinner concluded, I felt the warmth of my family enveloping me, a cocoon of support that I had longed for. I realized that while the remnants of conflict might linger, they were no match for the resilience of our bond. We were not just a family, we were a tapestry of intertwined lives, each thread contributing to the beauty of our shared story. And as I looked around the table, I knew that this was just the beginning of our journey toward healing and reconciliation. As I sat in the warmth of our living room, the soft glow of the fireplace flickering like a heartbeat, I felt a sense of peace enveloping me. The aroma of freshly baked cookies wafted through the air, mingling with the faint scent of pine from the Christmas tree that stood tall in the corner, adorned with memories captured in ornaments. The laughter of my family echoed around me, a melody of joy that felt like a balm to my soul. I watched Clara, her face lit up with a smile that felt genuine for the first time in ages, and it sparked a flicker of hope within me. The journey we had embarked on together had been fraught with challenges, Yet here we were, sitting side by side, sharing stories and laughter, the weight of our past slowly lifting. I could see the shadows of hurt begin to dissipate, replaced by a warmth that filled the room. Each shared moment felt like a stitch in the fabric of our relationship, slowly mending the rips and tears that had once seemed irreparable. I realized that this was not just a celebration of the holidays, but a celebration of our resilience and willingness to grow together. As the evening drew to a close, I felt a swell of gratitude for the lessons learned and the love that had triumphed over pain. I knew that our journey was far from over, but I was ready to embrace the future with open arms. I turned to the camera, capturing this moment of triumph, and spoke directly to my audience, my heart full. If you've experienced the complexities of family dynamics like I have, remember that healing takes time and patience. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell.